Hello, my name is Maximo Cavazzani. I'm the CEO and founder of Etermax, the creator of a game called Trivia Crack, which is very popular. You might have heard about it. Some numbers about Trivia Crack. 20 million daily active users, 200 million downloads, and it has been the game that has been more time #1 in the USA, 66 days. This December, last December and January, and it was the most downloaded game in the world during that time. So it has been a great success story. This has been done everything without user acquisition. So everything has been done through viral channels, and also we've been working a lot with social networks to build a user base without money. So we're very proud of that. Let me talk about the history of the company. We didn't start as a gaming company. 6 years ago, I created the first iPhone trading application for TD Ameritrade, which is one of the biggest brokers in the world. So I decided to make my company. I'm a software engineer, and try to enter this new mobile world at that time. And after some years, I realized I didn't want to work for banks anymore. So I decided to create an application directly to the user. So thinking about which kind of application I wanted to do, I wanted it to be massive. I wanted it to be something that everyone understood. And I realized that a game was the key to that. It was either a game or a social network. And I realized I could do something in between. The first game we did was called Apalabrados, which is a word game, sort of like Scrabble or Words with Friends. But the innovation was that you could play in multiple languages. The most important of that language is Spanish, the place where that's my mother language, and that's a language that's spoken all around the world, but especially in Latin America. We're from Latin America, as Etermax is an Argentinian company. And then when we launched the game, we didn't have much expectations. I mean, we wanted it to be very big, but we didn't realize that at some point it will become so popular, especially in Spain. Now, it's very strange because we were very, very popular in Spain. So popular that the game was installed in one of 2 phones. It was the most downloaded application in Spain during 2012. It was a real success. But it was strange to me because when I went to Spain, I was like Steve Jobs there. Everyone knew about my game. But when I came back to my country, I was nothing. Our company was nothing. So I tried to figure out why was that happening. Why were we so popular in Spain, but not where we are from, Latin America, especially if it's the same language? One of the things I realized is that Spain was prepared for that success. At that time, Spain was the 3rd country in the world in penetration of smartphones. And in you could see in Madrid people with iPhones in the street, but you didn't see that in Buenos Aires or other cities of Latin America. So we had to wait 2 years to get our success where we were born, in Latin America. Trivia Crack became very popular starting in Latin America. It was the first time a Latin American game had such success, but also it was the first time that a game was first popular in Latin America and then in the rest of the world. Just to get some idea of the success it was in Latin America, it was the most popular game ever in Latin America. And after that, we became one of the most successful games in the States. And nobody did that before. No real success in the States was made from Mexico to the south. So we became the success case of a Latin American gaming company. And this was done by a new concept. One of the things that you need to understand about Latin America is that it's not a country. It's like when people think of Africa as a single thing. But the truth is that Latin Americans are very different from, for example, Mexicans and Argentinians are very different. They care about different things. So Trivia Crack, of course, is a game about trivia. And which is the most important thing about trivia games? Questions, right? So at some point, I realized that trivia games were very popular all around the world, but nobody did something massive. Nobody could do a game that was popular all around the world. And I realized the problem was content. To do that, you needed an infinite number of questions. And those questions need to be updated regularly. But most importantly, you needed to be regionalized, right? So you need some questions for Chile, you need some questions for Uruguay, but you don't care. I mean, what you care about in Uruguay is not the same that you care about in Chile, or Argentina, or Mexico, or wherever. So the only way of generating that content for us was for the users to generate it. We couldn't do it ourselves, because it was too expensive. So thinking, we realized that the solution was something we called the question factory. The question factory is a crowdsourcing concept. It's a concept where users send us questions. They send 1 million questions per day right now. That's a lot of questions. But the problem is not people sending questions, because people like to participate. They like to be part of the content. The problem is, what do you do to separate the garbage from the good questions? So the question factory is about not only receiving questions from the users, but using those users to separate good questions from bad questions. So if anyone sends a question, then 100 people review that question and say if it's offensive, if it's boring, or if it has grammar mistakes. And if it passes those, I mean, it's something more complicated than that, but imagine it's like that. Then if that question passes all those tests, then it goes to production. But once it's in production, think that, for example, in Spanish, we have right now more than 1 million questions in the database. So the most important thing for us, a user will answer less than 1,000 questions in average. The user that answered most questions in the world was like 20,000. So it's not only important to get the best questions, but then when you have the best questions, you need to have them sorted so like the best of the best are served to the user. So the more you use Trivia Crack, the better it gets. And that made an explosion, because wherever in the world they thought we were from that country. So I was in, some months ago, I was in the presentation of the Apple Watch, and the PR of Apple Canada came to me, and they say, "Who are you?" "Well, we are from Etermax, the creators of Trivia Crack. We are from Argentina." And they say, and she told me, "I thought you were Canadian, because all the questions in your game are Canadian." And that's what everyone thinks about the game. They all think that the questions are, that the company is from their country, and that's because of the content. So it's not only the game that's important for us. I always say that we do something between a social network and a game. Just to give you an example of this, we have a chat inside the application, and 200 million messages are sent per day in that chat. Most of the people, for example, when in our first game, in Apalabrados, use it to get to know other people. So many people came to me and told me that they met their wives through Apalabrados, and it happened the same with Trivia Crack. And what happened with Trivia Crack happened all around the world, not just in Spain like the game before. This allowed us to have like many of the big companies in the world started to get interest in Etermax. For the first time, for example, big companies like Burger King or American Airlines wanted to advertise in our game. And that's because they realized that more people were using our game in the States than watching TV. So we make like 500 million impressions per day in our game. That's a lot of impressions. Actually, it's the game with more impressions in the world. And Google, they realized they wanted to be our sole partner, because they knew that if you're with the best, if you're the bigger one, then everyone will come to you. So one of the things that we focus in Etermax is to do always the best product. We don't care about getting more money from the user or trying to copy other games that were successful elsewhere, but to generate the best experience possible. Other of the big associations we had was with Amazon. we realized that we didn't want to do the merchandising the way that we were doing it before, or that any other company does. It's just licensing and getting the fee. We wanted to produce ourselves, but we knew that we couldn't do any of the logistics around merchandising. So with Amazon, we are doing our stuff in China, and then Amazon does all the logistics, but we are the ones who produce it and pay it, and we get a higher percentage of that. So we try to innovate in everywhere that we go. Now let me talk to you about where to go from here. We have a very big thing. Trivia Crack is a very big thing, but we realized that there was a problem. Let's say you get the entertainment category and you get a Harry Potter question. Then you either like it and love it, or you hate it, because if you have never read a Harry Potter book or watch a movie, you don't like a Harry Potter question. So we started getting calls also from, for example, the Red Cross, and telling us they needed a Trivia Crack for themselves. So they wanted that to teach people how to resuscitate people or train their guys. And then we got calls from newspapers that they want their own Trivia Crack. And then we said, hey, we're getting all these calls. Let's get a step backwards and generate a platform. So Trivia Crack Kingdoms now is like the YouTube for trivia. You can enter there. You can be Greenpeace. You can be the Time magazine, or you can be a fourth grade teacher, and you can create your own Trivia Crack inside this Trivia Crack. The game has an app store, as you see there. Well, it's a channel store, actually. And you can create your own channel. You can have a channel that it's for 1 million people, or maybe you can just do a channel for your students. We don't care. We are a platform. Everything's free. And the whole idea is to gamify the information in the social networks. Let's say you are Greenpeace and you want to create conscience about the pandas, right? So you generate a tweet saying, hey, the pandas are endangered. Nobody cares about that tweet, because you get it in like 1,000 tweets, and the information will be lost in your mind. But what if you are playing a game and you get a question from Greenpeace, and that question asks you about which is the most endangered mammal in China, for example? Then you have to think about that. You're playing and you want to win, and you can answer correctly or wrong. It doesn't matter, but the information will stick to your brain. And after that, we give the channel owner a place to continue their information. So for example, in the Greenpeace case, after you get the panda question, you can say, hey, now go here and help us save the pandas. So this is something very huge, something very important for us, and we think it's going to be 10 times bigger than the regular Trivia Crack. Now, remember my words. This is going to be the next Twitter. This is going to be the next thing. People are merged in a great quantity of information. They don't care about information anymore. They get so much information that the social networks are starting to be less reliable for companies and entities to distribute their content. So as a gaming company, we know the power of gaming. We know how important it is for the user and how it changes the state of mind of the people that are answering questions. So it's very easy to generate a channel. You can, it's the same social network guy that works for your company can create this channel, and you can get a lot of users from it. And if you're thinking, hey, but I could do my own application. Nobody wants 1,000 applications in their phones. And it's very difficult to do this right. Generating trivia questions is difficult. And that's because we don't know which questions are good or bad until you put it in the world. So we give a lot of tools to the channel owners to see which questions are good, which questions are bad. We have a lot of discovery ways for the user. We know a lot about the user. And we have a very strong team in Argentina, a very strong engineering team in Argentina, to give all the background needed for this to work as it is expected. So the game is right now. You can download it. Match content is generated each day, and I am sure you will love it. Well, thank you very much, and that was my presentation.